Okay. Good day, everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Cesar Payares. I don't know if you are listening to me right now. Okay. My name is Cesar Payares. I am an economist from Colombia, and I am a member of the team that's leading the initiative Responsible Metrics in Colombia, which is led by four organizations, the Colombian National Association of Universities, the Colombian Publishers Associations, Consorcio Colombia, and the Colombian Observatory of Science and Technology. With me is also Alida Costa. Ali, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Cesar. Hi, my name is Alida Costa. I am here to share with the audience and to exchange, but basically, knowledge and experience on responsible metrics around the world, and to exchange with you all what the journey that we are doing in Colombia regarding this project. I am a PhD on behavioral economics applied to human resources and CTI, currently working at the OC, the Colombian Observatory for Science and Technology.
Okay. So I'm going to start this presentation, then Alida will introduce our proposal, and finally some results that we are obtaining at the moment. Therefore, we'll begin with a brief introduction about what is responsible metrics. Then we are going to make some comments about theories and the main references around the world. Afterward, we are going to show some antecedents or some previous efforts in our country, and then our proposal, the pilot, and some questions that you might ask us about this project. So, what are responsible metrics? It is a global movement for responsible assessment of science and technology activities. Traditionally, metrics have been the main way to assess the performance of researchers and institutions around the globe. But this initiative tries to promote the use of different types of indicators to measure both direct and indirect impacts of governance, management, and research. With this, we try to help the researchers to make an impact on society. And not only focusing on publishing research papers and to publish them in journals and to stop the research there. No, we want to transcend that and to make an impact on society. There are several milestones. I will talk about them a little bit later. The main have been DORA, the Leiden Manifesto, the INORMS and its scope initiative, or the metric site in the UK. But where do responsible metrics come from? Well, for us, they come from the responsible research assessment. What is that? It is a new way to understand the assessment of research and innovation based on responsible research and innovation. It is mainly from its principles and from its review processes. The objective is to change the way in which we conduct research and innovation and to make them more related to societal needs, to increase their impact, to solve social problems, and to do it in a more ethical way, in a more responsible way. That's the name. The responsible metrics have some principles. These principles come from the metric type, which is a document published in 2015 by the metric type in UK. These are the main principles. The first one is robustness. That is that all metrics should have a strong technical background. The databases in which the evaluation is based must be very strong and very technically constructed. The second is that the transparency, that is that all the processes that leads to the indicators and to the metrics and all the databases should be open so researchers can see how they are being assessed, can evaluate if the metrics are reproducible and can obtain the same results. Also, there must be humility. That is that quantitative indicators or metrics are not enough. The qualitative processes, the peer review, is also required to conduct the research evaluation. Reflexivity is that all the frameworks should be analyzed and assessed some period of times that there is no perfect evaluation framework. And the other principle is the diversity. That is, that the metrics and the evaluation framework should recognize different fields of knowledge, different ways of producing knowledge, different stages in the trajectory or the academic career of researchers. So the metrics should include various types of indicators to recognize them and to be more fair to different ways to do science. This is not a Colombian uniqueness. It is a global trend, as I said before. There are several references that we have used in our project. The first one is DORA. DORA is an initiative from USA in 2012. There is also the Research on Research Institute, which are the main authors of the metric type that I mentioned. But it is also the Leiden Manifesto, and specifically in Latin America and Iberoamerica, there is the FOLEC, the Latin American Forum on Science Evaluation, which is supported by the Social Science Council in our region. There is also the Manual of Valencia, which is in Ibero-American guidelines to introduce metrics to measure the connection or vinculation between the university and its environment. And there are other tools and other initiatives around the world with the goal to promote responsible metrics. Which are the main ones, or the ones that are influenced the most? The first one is the metric type. It is a document from 2015, as I said before. It analyzes the use of metrics in research evaluation and promotes new principles and new ways to measure or to assess research activities in the UK. And it gives a very important and critical evaluation of how metrics have been used around the globe, not only in the UK, but also in Europe and other regions. Another reference that has influenced us a lot is the Leiden Manifesto. There are 10 principles. You can see them in the screen. The main focus is to include both quality and quantitative strategies to measure research and to evaluate researchers and to keep humble and evaluate. There is no perfect evaluation system, but they're always subject to be improved and to be adapted into new schemes according to the context of the region, of the discipline, and so on. The another example, this is most recent, this has been from the last 3 years, 3-4 years, is an scope from INORMS. It is a structure to evaluate, or there are some steps that universities or states or governments should implement in order to conduct responsible evaluation of the researchers. It is a 5-step framework. start defining what it is, what you value, include the context of the evaluation, generate several options for measure, and pilot those options to see how they impact the community. And afterwards that the evaluation has been conducted, assess the evaluation. In that way, you can always have a system of evaluation that is accordingly adapted to your needs and to incentive impacts from the research system. Another framework is the samples that have been in the Netherlands, which comes to the Dutch Recognition and Rewards Program that has been implemented in several universities in that country. That is also a reference for us and has many insights for our own tools that we can want to create for our country. As I said in the beginning, there are some previous antecedents in our country. The first one is the Agreement on Higher Education for 2034 with 4 key elements that recommends for the system. The first one is that the public investment for science and technology in our country should be around the 1% of the GDP. Currently is less than the half, 0.5%, more or less. It also identifies that there is a weakness in the scientific productivity of universities, and the incentives are mainly focused to publish in Scopus and Web Science journals. There is a disarticulation between university, business, and state. One of our main goals through the last 20 years has been to promote the connection between those agents, but it has not been possible until the moment. And there is a low level of technical and technological development in our country. Therefore, given those 4 weaknesses, this document tries to promote new ways in which universities can help to reach a new development state, in which they support our peace agreements and they support our social transformation to reach social new states. Another antecedent is from 2018. It is called the Green Book 2030 o Libro Verde 2030. It tries to give some guidelines to our country to transform our research system in such a way that they help to reach the SDG goals. So it gives the need to implement open science, to transform incentives. It evaluates how our research system connects with the SDG or social development goals. So it is a very good policy framework to orient our researchers. Another background is the mission of Sabios, the Wise Man mission that is from 2019. It proposes to our country some focus areas that our research systems should work on: converging technologies, cultural and creative industries, sustainable energy, biotechnology, ocean and hydrobiological resources, social science, life and health science, and basic and space science. And it gives some recommendations for our policymakers to improve our research capabilities in those subjects. That's the goal of this mission of science. And currently, this is the new policy of science, technology, and innovation in Colombia. It has been approved one month ago, and it tries to solve a key problem, that there is insufficient contribution of STNI capabilities to solve our country's social, economic, environmental, and sustainable development. And then tries to solve 7 key problems with specific policies. Now, Alida.
Gracias, Cesar. Thank you, Cesar. In the next few minutes, we are going to share with all of you the journey that we had done in Colombia so far. I just see that there are some questions in the chat. Probably we are going to go back to these questions and comments once we finish with this part of the presentation. Thank you for the comments, and please keep writing that we will go back to these comments in a few minutes. So basically, considering the impact that this approach could have in Colombia, we look forward to get as many people as we could interested in getting to know the fundamental principles of responsible metrics. And with this idea of mind, we decided to create around this project an academic group that, or an academic moment and space that could allow to any person in Colombia interested in the topic to be part of the conversation. So we built an academic space that have resulted in a nice connection and a nice working space with different institutions in the country. Alongside these conversations, or part of these conversations, we look to get information, to get to know what researchers and in general what the academic community is considering fundamental for the development of science and technology in Colombia, and more general, the development of and the generation of knowledge. We look for creating spaces that will allow people to not only to offer information, but also to discuss with local and with international experts on the topic, so we can get an overall view of what metrics, responsible metrics is, and what will it involve applying this in Colombia. We also tried and always had on mind the idea that this academic space will allow us and should allow us to make a comparison between what we have in Colombia, the capacity that we have in Colombia, and what is expected for responsible metrics, and what we will need in case that we decided to go ahead and apply this framework in Colombia. Next one, Cesar, please. The aim of the project is basically to reflect on an advance towards proposals for measuring science, technology, and innovation in Colombia. And we, as I said before, and we try to do this recognizing the international frameworks, but also recognizing the Colombian frameworks, and in that building a bridge between these two and making comparison between these two, creating and developing the indicators and the metrics for the Colombian system. How have we done it? Basically, we had done this, what you are seeing on the screen at the moment, is basically the structure that we had used to develop this project in Colombia. We had created some monthly spaces, these academic spaces that I just mentioned. We had created spaces for learning with international experts. And I think I should highlight this part of the having and always making sure that we had this combination between the locals and the international experts, because it's only there where we can guarantee that our metrics and our indicators not only respond to the Colombian challenges and to the Colombian opportunities, but also that the research that is done in Colombia is comparable with research around the world, which is a fundamental principle of this framework. We also look for this space, for strategies to allow us to reflect on the implications of implementing or designing these trends for Colombia. And I think this is fundamental when if we are going to develop our own metrics for the country. So it's necessary to know that the metrics and the indicators which have been developed in other contexts probably might not necessarily apply to the capacities that we have in Colombia. So it is, for us, is fundamental to get to know what the implications would be if we take the framework as a reference for developing more responsible metric systems in Colombia. For us, it was important to have a recurring meeting. So we look forward to, or we tried along the year to keep these meetings regular. So and doing so, what we wanted to do was to build a community, some sort of belonging to this group, where people could already knew that was our monthly meeting. So people can prepare and take the time and put it in the diary that they will be there attending the meeting. So in a way, creating this community will allow for a more open conversations and where people could freely express their visions on the project. Of course, we also needed and wanted to have this space for the analysis and the discussion of the national dynamics. What is happening in the country and how do you people perceive what is happening in the country? And building in the national proposals that already exist. As you can see from what I just said, this has large component, a large conversational component, because for us it's important to get to know the expectation that people have in what it means to be measured and to measure, not only to be measured by others, but to get awareness that responsible metrics is also to learn to self-evaluate, to be your own monitor of your own the quality of your research. Next one, Cesar, please. Right. So this is it's a nice picture, probably I would say, of the journey that we are doing. So we have basically two things that we would like to get at the end of this first phase of the project. So by the end of this first stage in the construction of the responsible metrics for Colombia, we would like to get a policy brief and a toolbox. The policy brief, I am not gonna stay there too much and too long, because basically we all know what a policy brief could involve for the country, for any country. Basically, the policy brief, what we would like to do with this document will be to be able to offer a document that can be consulted by the decision makers, and that shows some policy actions for the country in order to include responsible metrics, but also to be very descriptive of the context of the problem in the Colombian context, and to be very clear in possible ways and proposals to overcome this problem and to take advantage of the capacity that we had already developed in the country. And also, we would like this policy brief to include and to take into account the Colombian governance model for science and technology. So basically, that's the policy brief. We are working, and part of our other efforts are being addressed to the development of a toolbox that will allow the institutions to have the tools and the knowledge and the basic fundamental tools to be able to implement a framework, the responsible metrics framework. That's why we would like to propose a tool that can be adapted to the characteristics of the institutions. So we are hoping and we are aiming that by the end of this first phase of the project, we can offer to the institutions a set of tools and principles that can be adapted and informed by the context in each institution, but that made them comparable with the other institutions. We would like this toolbox to be articulated with the evaluation mechanisms that exist in the country. And by the end of this first phase, we are hoping that we will be able to pilot this tool with a sample of institutions in Colombia from both private and public institutions. So the question that we would like, or that we are aiming to address with this project, is basically to get to know what are the conditions that should be generated from science, technology, and innovation policy for the promotion of responsible metrics that motivate the generation of new knowledge and decision-making to address social, economic, cultural, and environmental challenges. Not only in Colombia, but the environmental and all these challenges that can be, all of these responses that can also address international challenges. I must highlight here that one of the advantages of the responsible metrics framework is to be able to pinpoint these challenges that are relevant for the society where research is done, but also allow us to inform the way that other communities around the world are addressing these issues, and also to exchange knowledge in order to get more and better informed decisions and solutions for the country, for the communities. Regarding the tool, we would like to design an evaluation tool that allows the actors of the national science, technology, and innovation system to implement responsible metrics for institutional decision-making and to generate a relationship with the socioeconomic environment of impact, relevance, and leadership. I think this is self-explaining, so I won't stay there. I don't think it's necessarily to comment any further on that. And in here, and the next slide, they both describe the journey so far. We began in April 2021 with a first meeting where we basically describe and socialize with the people attending our first meeting the ABC of responsible metrics. So basically it was to get a common ground of what it means. And then our second meeting in May the 27th, started by inviting, apart from that meeting, from the second meeting, we started inviting these experts to exchange with us different, the different ways of embracing the different ways of using and implementing the responsible metrics framework. So we did that in several meetings which the first one of them was on May 2021. And then we carry on until next slide, please, Cesar. Until October last year. As you can see from the slide, there are the names of the frameworks that we have been commenting and discussing in these meetings. And the next one. So basically, this slide summarizes what we, our structure, if there is one. And we believe that this structure is fundamental in order for us to give a bit of, to be able to touch in all the aspects of the national science system. So we have developed a scientific committee that we create for the purpose of this project. We have an academic committee. Of course, we have a group of people that take care of the administrative and logistic committee. We had our commission, and we have a group of experts that we carefully select and invite, not with the aim of excluding necessarily anyone, but with the aim of gaining the most, if you probably allow me to say, these frameworks that have been more informative and that have been more in the discussion about responsible metrics. We have a methodological form that we had decided, and for us, as I said earlier, for us was very important to keep this conversational level of discussion. So we sort of adopted workshops as a methodology for achieving this goal. And the focus group with managers, editors, and researchers. So basically, this is, in a nutshell, what the Colombian project is so far. I must say, this is the first phase of this project, and we are looking, of course, at the moment, we are heading towards the end of this first phase, and that's what we are sharing with you today. Cesar, if you want to continue.
Thank you very much, Alida. So I'm going to present some of the results that we obtained in the first phase, as Alida mentioned. First, what we obtained about this exercise is to define the problem that we are trying to solve. I'm going to read it. The evaluation system of science, technology, and innovation activities in Colombia generates a gap that hinders the scientific and technological capacities of knowledge-generating organizations to address the social and environmental challenges facing the country. We obtained this definition of the problem after analyzing both the results of the seminars and the insights that we obtained from our committees. We are not saying that our system limits or blocks the connection between our scientific capabilities with societal problems, but what we are saying is that it does not foster. Why? Because our main research evaluation framework keeps incentives towards journal publications and do not give incentives towards solving those societal problems. So that's the problem that we are trying to solve as general. How we're going to help in the solution? With both ways that Alida mentioned. By one side, with the policy brief, on the other, with the toolbox for institutions to change the way that institutions evaluate and give incentives to the researchers. But this problem, it is a summary of 12 problems that we identified in our analysis, in our strategy. First, The disconnection of indicators with countries' realities. What it says is that the main indicators that we use to assess researchers is how many papers they have published in Web of Science or in Scopus, or how many citations had the research books that they publish. These incentives or these metrics are not connected to solve the main problems of country, as such as violence, poverty, or environmental risks. Second problem, there is a lack of knowledge of alternatives and proposals for generating responsible metrics models. That is, our research managers, our research directors, our university presidents do not know alternatives to evaluate their researches other than how many papers. So we need to solve this problem by organizing seminars, to establishing programs, and so on. Third, there is a standardization of evaluation models, and those models ignore institutions, disciplinary, and regional asymmetries. Our evaluation models give the same incentives and the same metrics, regardless it is a national university with thousands of researchers, or it is a small regional university that tries to solve local problems. They are the same standards, so it does not recognize differences. Four, there is this legitimizing research evaluation as a measuring process. What it says is that our researchers do not trust research evaluation. They see it as a burden and something that do not contribute to their research efforts. So they constantly, every 2 years, against the evaluation, against the institutions, against the government, or the policies, and it creates a fracture between our system, within our system. So there is this articulation between our actors in the system. The sixth problem is that the research incentives and evaluation metrics are focused on individuals. Therefore, it promotes competitions and do not promote collaboration, which is our key goal in responsible evaluation and a key goal in responsible research. Our system should integrate and articulate different actors, but our indicators, what are they are doing? What they do is to promote competition. 7, we find that there are external pressures into developing the assessments. There are actors that they are not Colombian or they are not from the Colombian system that pressure the way in which our researchers are evaluated. 8, there is a lack of public policy that allows for resources that orients and guides the resources allocation. I'm going to remember this was a policy or this was a problem that we identified a year ago. Now we got the compass, which is a policy that gives incentives to solve societal problems. That's something to be clarified. 9, the metrics focus on journals and citations, so they are not so clearly related towards measuring research quality. Another problem is that there is a lack of spaces for discussion among the actors. One of the problems we identified is that our research evaluation is created top-down. The government says what are the ways in which research is going to be evaluated, and the researchers do not have a voice in deciding or proposing ways to be evaluated. Other problem is that how our researchers are evaluated. and the incentives that we provide to them generate hazards and moral risk in the behavior of researchers. Since we are giving economic and monetary rewards for publishing journals, that might create some problems in the behavior of the individuals. And that's a problem that has been highly recognized in Colombian system. Finally, we believe that there is a resistance to change in some actors in the system, whereas that is because they are benefited by the economic incentives, other there is a lack of knowledge of alternatives. The result is that some actors are resistant to change the way in which research is evaluated in our country. So that is where we are at this stage now. We are trying to, in this moment, to redact the policy brief and to develop the toolbox to propose it and to propose it to our system in the first semester of 2022. With this, we hope to contribute to solve our country's research problems and to make a guidance towards a new stage in our scientific capabilities. This is the team that has been promoting the effort. Lorena Ruiz from ACEUC, César Rendón from Consortia, Alida Costa from the Observatory, myself from the left to the right. There is Salim Chalela from the Universidad por Rosario. There is also Juan Pablo Alperín, who helped us in some sessions in Bogotá. There is Hernán Muñoz from Consortia. Also María Alejandra Tejada, who was going to be with us today, but has some internet problems, so sorry, she couldn't make it. And Elizabeth Bernal from Colombian Association of Universities. So we are open if you got any question or any comments that you would like to share with us. We'll be very thankful. I don't know, Cassia, there are questions, so we will see them on the chat. Okay, thank you, Cassia.
Probably, Cesar, just to respond to Diana Velasco, who asked us, or more than to respond, is to attempt to give an answer, and then we can all comment. Diana is asking us, what do you think that is needed to change the research metrics regime? And basically, from our perspective, we believe that one of the changes that we should make in order to encourage a better quality research and a more collaborative research and more, probably to say, more human-driven research. And I say by human, I say no focus in human, but in well-being. Is probably incentives and the way that we incentivize the production of knowledge and the doing of this of science, not just taking into account the outcome, the last bit of the research process, but also incentivizing the process of the research process. We have a long history of dealing with incentives that only focus on the last bit of the research process, and we sort of ignore what it takes to get to that product. On the other hand, we consider that we all are aware that publications itself is a part of the act of developing knowledge, but not necessarily is the last bit of the process of developing knowledge, and the last not with that is just, we don't finish the creation of science just by doing the publication. Publications, we believe that the publication is an important and necessarily part of the process, but the doing of science doesn't necessarily end there, or the scientific endeavor doesn't end there. So we believe that emphasizing in incentives, not only at the end, but also throughout the process of the research making, the science making, will allow us to change this regime, metrics regime, as Diana mentioned in her question. I don't know, Cesar, if you would like to add something to this one, or probably we will, if we move to the next one.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with what you have said. I don't know if there are another questions or commentary on the chat. We will be very thankful if you provide us with some feedback or some commentary, because we include them in our references and to improve how we are making this proposal for our country.
I will take a few minutes, probably Cesar, to comment on Matthias' comment. Thank you, Matthias, for your comment on that. And you ask us, or more than asking, is you actually mentioned that you wonder how, or how about a bridge could be developed between responsible metrics and transformation. I think you already give us the sort of a response to this, Matthias, because basically the idea of taking into account the process to incentivize this will, in a way, be very much online with transformative innovation. When we look at the impact of transformative innovations, we don't necessarily go at the end of the the transformation process. In transformative research, as you all, of course, you know better than we do on this topic, Matthias, we need to take into consideration the way that we get to there. So I think it's a very interesting question for us. Matthias, thank you for giving that question to us. And this will be one of the ways that we could use to upscale our framework. Just also to answer to Diana, where Diana asked us, how can we, if we had considered in ways to upscale this framework in Colombia? And I think with Matthias' comment, Cesar, we have there a very interesting point to work on, how to bridge responsible metrics and transformations.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, I didn't see the question before because I was sharing the screen, so I can't read it down. So I agree with what Alida had said. I'm going to add something, is that how we are in seeing this proposal of responsible metrics, that is promotes diversity, and it promotes new ways of develop the research evaluations, and new ways to promote or help to make incentives so research help to reach the goals that the institutions are trying to reach. If an institution is trying to solve or if an institution is trying to accomplish transformations in the region, in their society, so the evaluation incentives, whether they are for promotion, for hiring, for increasing academic trajectories, or for closing a project, should not go against that. There is no sense that if you try to make a transformation project and to develop a new solution that is built and proposal with the community, but the project is evaluated by how many papers have you published in Nature or in Scientometrics. There is no sense that. So we believe that responsible metrics can be a way that all those goals of research, transformation, of transformative innovation can accomplish and can be coherent with the entire policy strategy. I see that Gilberto Gomez Munoz is also making a question about how are you taking into account indicators to evaluate how science influence public policy. I don't know if you, Alia, wants to comment first, or may I give some insights?
Go ahead,
Ideas.
Cesar. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. So I believe that we do, but what perspective that we have in mind is that we are not going to give just a battery or a list of indicators and say this is how to you should measure and evaluate your researchers. No, we believe that we should provide a framework in which institutions should select the metrics and how they are going to use it. In that sense, I believe that we take into account how science influences policies. Actually, for example, in our country, we include some indicators and we give some incentives to measure that activity. But I believe that our framework takes account that goal.
I think just to add a bit to that that comment, Cesar, I think Gilberto, one of the key points of this framework is actually the call to researchers for not necessarily to wait to be evaluated by external eyes, but also for the research and for the community involved in the research to make the effort to set up their own indicators so they can self-assess the process along the way of developing science. And this will take out a bit, or quite a lot probably, the pressure of being observed and having to report to others and working for making reports and making to fulfill other indicators. Whereas if as a researcher, as a community, as a group, you develop your own set of self-assessment indicators that will, without excluding that compromise that we have as a scientist to also report to others, because that cannot be excluded from a system, from the evaluation system. But just to not to put necessarily the main weight on that, but also to complement it and to make it to inform it with the self-assessment. And that is a key point of this framework of responsible metrics. Cesar, we have 5 minutes, so...
And we got 5 minutes and 2 questions. I believe that we will make a brief comment about Mabel and Matthias' commentary. If you like to do it first, and I closed. Do you think? Agree?
Okay, Cesar. Just to respond to Mabel Ayure, asking about diversity of research results. This links very nicely with the comment made by Matthias in his first comment about working on the basis of systems rather than working in individual projects. And basically, from what we know and from what we have been exploring, the assessment of the research, the quality of research, has to take into consideration not only one part of not only the community directly involved in the making of science, but also other actors outside the lab, outside the experiment, outside the project. So by doing that, we definitely believe that this framework will take into consideration the diversity of research results and make it while still comparable with results around the world. Because I think we need to be also careful about considering that all results from science, one of the key points of science is making the results comparable. So while allowing for this diversity, we also need to strive for the quality of the research so it make it comparable with research around the world.
I agree with what you have said, Alida. I believe that one of the key elements in research, in the principle of diversity, is that there is not only one product from research. There can be several products or results, and those results can be produced according to the community in which they are intended. What we have said is not to say that publishing a journal is a bad thing. No, it is a good thing and it should be promoted. But there should be also promoted to make a small document for the community, to a small book for the children. So what we say is that we should include different types of results and to assess it for the academic career of the researchers. So he or she has incentives to according to what he or she tries to impact or how he or she tries to impact in society. And I agree with Matthias that is a way to include these spaces as even what is of the conclusion of the metric test, that is that maybe peer review hinders transdisciplinary research. And I agree with Matthias says. I believe that this chat is soon to be finished, so I would like to ask you if you want to contact us. Don't hesitate. We are on Twitter, we are on different spaces, and thank you very much for being here. Alida.
Thank you so much. And we are very much open to continue the conversation through our mail, the social networks, and we would be very happy to be able to share with you the results of this first phase and the second phase of responsible metrics in Colombia.